Okay, I'll start. So I'll be hiding your chat box and I'll come back for that one later on. Okay, for welcome to my video presentation or PowerPoint presentation. As what we have a while ago from the course outline, the basics of accounting will be shared and mentioned to you guys for tonight. Same with the conceptual framework, then the rest will be on Sunday. No, first few tips for studying or reviewing CFAS or theory of accounts. Maybe you should take down notes or a lot of notes if you have no other reviewers or no textbooks that came from your undergrad days. Maybe some of you already have it few years back and they already lost their books or reference. I suggest you take down some important items or terms that you were not able to remember before. I think this is a basic technique of reviewing theories because writing it down somehow you try to remember it again when the moment you wrote it down, like it's today for the first session or uh, there's in theories when you try to write things and the terms, it will help you remember somehow. So I inserted here the first chapter for accounting process. I saw this chapter in financial accounting, in typical financial accounting subjects, and I think it will be helpful for us to review the basic accounting process as well because we encountered in the different review centers or review proper, some are having questions or definitions about what is a journal, what is recording, what is classifying, and the rest. So this is the basic content of my first presentation. Then the rest will follow after. So for my first presentation is all about the accounting process. And our learning objectives is to enumerate the different steps, baka nakalimutan nyo na, in the accounting cycle and explain it briefly. State the different types of accounting records and some important documents we have in the accounting cycle used in the recording process or phase, and enumerate some components of components of accounting and some related items. Gumagalaw ba yung ating yun. So for the definition for the accounting cycle, of course, the accounting cycle is the start and the beginning of the accounting process. Maybe some of you are working already as an accounting staff or clerk. You already have an idea what is all about the said cycle, correct? Some of you or maybe most of you are working already. So as per definition, with the different items or from the different authors, accounting cycle represents the steps or accounting procedures normally used by entities to record transactions and prepare financial statements. In the upcoming slides, we're going to define what is accounting again and review what is accounting. But for now, our focus is about the accounting cycle. In the undergrad days, the accounting cycle looks like this one. For the next slide. Malaw ba? Yan. There are 10 steps. You should remember, if the question is about the steps for the accounting cycle, there will always be 10 steps in the accounting cycle. It starts with identifying and should end with preparing the reversing entries. So let's review the different steps in the accounting cycle. I encountered in theory of accounts, there are few questions about these steps. Which came first? Which came on the latter part or stages? No, baka mapagbali-baliktad nyo. So let's review. The first one should be identifying, in short. And in short, for identifying side, you should be able to know how to identify and analyze the different transactions. And it was mentioned in accounting that not all transactions are subject to accounting, right? And those transactions, generally speaking, should be the economical one and business transactions that might be quantifiable transactions. So identifying, first step. The second one, once you identify those transactions that is subject to accounting, journalizing or journal entries. You make your journal entries. So in number 2 for the journal entry side, that is the second process. May Ayun. Journalizing. So yung the debit credit, the document, and in step 2 is the journal, di ba? The debit credit side, the different chart of account titles you are using from the assets, liabilities, equity, down to different revenue or income and expenses items in journalizing. After journalizing, the third step is posting. Posting is the related document is ledger. So step 2, a while ago, journalizing for journal entries, the journal document. And number 3, the posting, you are doing the trial balance in the ledger or the general ledger. So far, that's the main point of difference, right? Then another question or query here is when are you doing the second step and when are you doing the third step? Please use our chat box to answer. Kailan nyo ba ginagawa yung journalizing for step 2? Kailan ba yung step 3? One step is real time on the date of transaction. The other step is at the end of the accounting period or reporting period. Which is which? Step 2 or step 3? Ayan, we have an interaction, so good to know. Yes, correct. Journalizing the real time or on the date of transaction, you do the journal entries, right? So as you can see, the real time transaction ends on, therefore, step 2. Because there is, for posting and trial balance preparation and financial statements, it happens on the end of the accounting period. So step 3 onwards, malamang sa malamang, nasa dulo ng accounting period. Statement 1 is true. Ganyan. Posting at the end, correct. So posting onwards, yan. Number 4, preparing the unadjusted trial balance. So another document arises in step 4, the trial balance. It happens by the end of the accounting period. So in the undergrad days, so parang as mentioned for this refresher program, undergrad approach, so as if hindi nyo pa na-encounter itong topic na ito, in the undergrad days, nakakalimutan nyo siguro pag for trial balance, ang purpose nga is not really to correct and to update the correct items and amounts for the different account titles used, right? The trial balance in number 4 intention is really to prove the equality between the two sides, the debit and the credit side. Found on step 4, the unadjusted trial balance. Babalikan natin later si trial balance. Sa step 5, preparing the adjusting entries. Yan, medyo maraming nahirapan when it comes to undergrad sa adjusting entries. However, adjusting entries somehow is to correct and update the different account titles used, diba? And there are a lot of adjusting entries you learned or somehow was able to learn on the accounting process. Then, after doing the adjusting entries, step 6 is to prepare the adjusted trial balance already. And in between step 5 and step 6, you are able to somehow start already preparing the worksheet, right? In theory questions, sometimes there are questions about worksheets, and it was mentioned that worksheets are financial statements, false, or should be part of financial statements, right? Worksheet somehow is a document that will help or a tool for the accountant to help the said accountant prepare the financial statements, diba? So in number 6, after preparing the adjusted trial balance, in step 7, the financial statements as mentioned. And later, very soon, we will be having a separate accounting standards for financial statements, which is PAS 1, Philippine Accounting Standards number 1. No? And closing entries, step number 8, you close the books. What do you mean by you close the books? You should be able to close the temporary accounts, diba? And close it with its counterpart or real accounts. So which are temporary accounts, which are permanent accounts? Is it the one found in income statement or balance sheet? Let's start off with for the closing entries. Of course, you're gonna close the temporary accounts. Is it income statement or balance sheet? Sana wala na nagkakamali at this point of time, di ba? So the answer is it's temporary income statement. That's the keyword. Permanent balance sheet or the statement of financial position. So what are the accounts you are closing? Only the temporary accounts or basically coming from the income statement items. You're closing it for it to be updated somehow or run through on with its counterpart in the permanent accounts, which is the statement of financial position. Okay, so basic review, most of you mentioned is income statement, correct? Then preparing the post-closing trial balance. There's a twist in step number 9. Why? Another trial balance arises, right? Why? Uh, is the post-closing trial balance. Because in step number 9, the trial balance, the different account titles should the only remaining account title should be the permanent accounts only. So, or the different temporary accounts were already closed, so it was not found already on step number 9, post-closing trial balance. And that's why by the end of number 10, we have reversing entries as well. So I think the basic feature or steps of accounting cycle should be able to remember somehow. So sana naalala nyo pa what are these steps in the accounting cycle. So as we move forward, the double entry system. Somehow there are questions about double entry system. So in short, the keyword is pag double entry, there are two sides. So a debit side and the credit side. Under the double entry system, as mentioned, each transaction, there should always be at least two sides. There should always be therefore two accounts being used. And two parts at least for the debit side and the credit side. Siguro alam niyo na yan or naalala niyo pa. Therefore, the double entry system makes use of the following concepts. Duality. Siyempre, double nga eh. So, dual by nature. This concept views each transaction as having a twofold effect on values. A value received and a value parted with, and each transaction is recorded using at least two accounts. So, duality. So, for each, remember your account equation, for each effect of the account title use, there will be an impact with the accounting equation as well. So, sana naalala nyo from your basic accounting book na once the left side of your accounting equation, which is the asset side, increases or decreases, what would be the impact on the other side, right? So, a simple review. If there's an increase in assets, therefore, liabilities will increase, decrease, or no effect. Accounting equation, assets is equal to liabilities plus capital. My initial question, what if the assets increases? So what is the effect on the other side of the equation for liabilities? Increase, decrease, no effect. Yun lang, those are the questions for accounting equation typically. So if you're gonna plot the accounting equation, we're gonna have the equal side. Therefore, both sides should always remain equal. So if additional 10 pesos on the asset side, on the left side, there should be an increase as well on the other side. So we call it, if they have the same effect, we call it direct effect. So the answer, increase in assets will result to somehow there might be an increase in liabilities. So unless the equity side or the capital have a different effect as well, pero kung ang binigay lang si assets siya liabilities, huwag na tayong maghanap ng iba dun sa question, sa theory question or query, di ba? So the increase on the left side would result to an increase as well on the other side. Pero pag same side sila, di ba? Liabilities increases, what would be the effect on equity side or capital? Nasa same side sila. Basic accounting review. If liabilities increases, answer, equity somehow is decreasing. We call it naman this time on the same side, pag same side sila, the other one account increases and the other element decreases is a reverse impact or effect. Kanina kasi direct effect, di ba? Magkaibang side, pag nag-increase yung isang side sa kabilang side, theoretically speaking, increases as well. Pero nasa isang side lang sila, gaya ng liabilities and capital. Liabilities increases, all else being equal, somehow equity decreases based on the accounting equation, right? So duality and equilibrium. Equality means equilibrium, diba? So in economics as well. So equality between the accounting equation. Your goal on basic accounting is practically to uh, have an equal accounting equation that assets, again, will be equal to liabilities and the capital side. Okay? Here is a review of the different definitions, guys. Please do remember the different documents we are using in accounting or in the recording phase. Again, I mentioned a while ago what is a journal, what is a ledger. Ito na po yung review or summary niya. Journal is otherwise known as book of original entries. You do the debit credit, you do the journal entries there. There are few kinds or types of journals: general journal and special journal. General journal is being used to record the transactions other than those that are recorded in the special journals. However, for special journals, these are being used to record transactions of a similar nature. Like for special journal, cash receipts journal only. They only want cash disbursements journal, special journal, specific kasi. Pero in the general journal side, di ba, it was mentioned always in the theory questions should be chronologically arranged, chronological transactions. What do we mean by chronological? It should be dated on its actual or specific time or, sorry, not time, actual or specific date of the said transaction, chronologically, general journal. Okay? If we want a final entry or the book of final entries is the ledger. This is the systematic compilation of the different group of accounts, or the specific one is for the general ledger. In general ledger, we use somehow the accounts. That's the figure or image of a ledger. May isang side for the debit side and may isang, there's the other side for the credit side for each and every chart of accounts used. For each and every account type.
Sir, wala pong sound.
Nag-aral ka mag-isa mo.
Ayan.
Lagi naman tigero.
Kayo din nga ginawa nga kamata. Ibinay, ako siya mo sa
Okay. Yan, accounts. So chart of accounts is a list of all the accounts used by the entity. Ayan, na-review na natin a while ago what are the different real accounts, nominal accounts, and some mixed accounts, and contra accounts and adjunct accounts. For the chart of accounts, again, this is the list of all the accounts used by the entity. Usually in practice, of course, there should always be a chart of accounts as a guide for each entity, and it might happen that some entities might not use the account titles or account names used by other entities as well. It would depend. We already know real accounts, otherwise known as permanent accounts or coming from balance sheet accounts. Please remember, nominal accounts are temporary accounts or sometimes can be in short found in income statement balances or accounts, right? Mixed accounts, in short, can be found or can be traced between the balance sheet and income statement, the financial statements or accounts as well. Contra accounts are those accounts that will be deducted or will be reduced to the related account title, right? Can you give me an example of contra account? Pag sinabi daw contra account, ang effect ng account na ito ay nakakapagbawas, deduction, less, or subtraction to a specific account title being used. Any contra accounts you remembered? Yes. We have first one, for the current assets, for accounts receivable, we have allowance for bad debts or doubtful accounts. Tama? The normal balance of contra accounts should be, kaya nga contra, should be on the other side. On the other side of the related account title. Example, pag sinabi natin related account title, the accounts receivable is an asset, so the normal balance is the debit side. The contra account should have a normal balance of credit side. Contra account is a deduction. How about adjunct accounts? This is the counterpart of contra accounts. If contra accounts are deduction, adjunct accounts will be addition. Diba? Addition to the specific or related account title. So can you remember in your financial accounting any adjunct accounts you were able to use during the accounting process or computation? Mga dinadagdag sa related account titles. Yan. Pag addition, pag increase, adjunct accounts. Pag deduction a while ago, contra accounts. Yan. Of course, the most common one, premiums, right? When it comes to amortization of the different notes and bonds payable, on the other side, on the investment side, di ba? Pag ikaw sa investor, nasa asset side ka. So premiums are added for the different bonds, loans, and notes related financial instruments, right? Adjunct accounts. Okay, so sana na-review yung mga different account titles so far. Let's move forward. Trial balance, yeah. I have a definition here of what is a trial balance. This is the list, only the list of general ledger accounts and their balances only. Again, ito yung sinabi ko kanina nung nasa steps tayo na slide. This document is only showing and only prepare to check the equality. Kung equal ba yung total lang ng debit side ng mga accounts and credit side ng ledger. That's it. The trial balance is really not intended to prove that that everything, all the transactions were accounted correctly, that all account titles and the different accounts have the updated balances. No, the trial balance will only prove that all the debit side is equal. Total amount is equal to the total credit side. Trial balance yun. That's the limitation of the trial balance. Okay? Next one, adjusting entries. Yan, for definition's sake or purposes. Adjusting entries, these are entries made prior to the preparation of the financial statements and to update certain accounts so that they reflect correct balances. So those are the keywords. So if you will need the definition of adjusting entries to update, to correct the said amounts for the different account titles or account names. Correctness side, account side, of the different account titles, so adjusting entries yun. Next, babalikan ulit natin to sa past one for the financial statements. Yan. As you can see here, the different documents, the different documents we encountered so far is not found in the financial statements already. Do you agree? So far, this is a definition of the financial statements. Financial statements is the end product of accounting practically as per other definition. But here is a more concise one. Financial statements are the means by which the information accumulated and processed in financial accounting is periodically communicated to the users. So these are the end reports of accounting already, financial statements. And babalikan natin on Sunday, based on Philippine Accounting Standards number 1, these are the complete set of the financial statements. As you can see, the trial balance, the ledger, the journal was not found already. For financial statement side, it's already integrated with the recording phase of the different phase phases of the accounting cycle. Because in financial statements in past one, as you can see, these are the complete set of financial statements, the 5 complete set of financial statements. The first one is the balance sheet, or termed as a statement of financial position. In past one, a statement of profit or loss and OCI, or other comprehensive income. A statement of changes in owner's equity, the statement of cash flows, and the fifth one, the notes to financial statements. As you can see, the 5 complete set of financial statements with number 6, additional comparative information as to financial position of the previous reporting period, the succeeding reporting period. So, pag tinatanong, practically yung sa 5 nagfo-fall. But if there are already previous accounting periods mentioned, additional statement of financial position for past one, for the complete set of financial statements. Now, for financial statements, aside from definition, ang lagi namang tinatanong dito for the basic side is the different elements found on the said financial statement. Saan ba makikita yung assets, saan makikita yung income and expenses, lahat yun babalikan natin in Philippine Accounting Standards number 1. Now, it's enough that you remember that this is financial statements, and these are the different components of the financial. Moving forward, ayan. For the methods of initial recording of income and expenses. So, review lang for the adjusting entries in basic accounting, because there are few methods mentioned there for adjusting entries or found in adjusting entries. But practically for income and expenses, liability method and asset method. Sa undergrad kasi, ang lagi namin sinasabi dyan, pag walang binanggit for the adjusting entries preparation, ay we use liability method, then we use asset method. That's why in the chart of accounts, meron tayong tinatawag na accrued expenses, accrued income, prepaid expenses, and unearned income, no, for the adjusting entries because of the liability method and asset method. Okay, so next, let's have a simple review of the said accounts for accrued income. Yan, accrued expenses, anong classification nila? Asset, liability. So, let's have accrued income first. What is accrued income, guys? Where's asset, liabilities, what? Yan. For those of you who were not able to remember, sabihin na natin, pag accrued income is a receivable. So, therefore, is an asset. So, yung opposite niya, si accrued expenses, kung asset si accrued income, malamang si accrued expenses ay hindi na asset, liability. Correct? Yan. Next one, next side. Deferred income, or minsan mas tawag na prepaid income, versus unearned income. Yan, marami nagkakamali kasi doon sa account titles na yun. Yan. Deferred or prepaid, let's have ano muna, deferred expenses. Yan. Deferred expenses muna tayo. Minsan tawag, synonyms niya is prepaid expenses. But in past one, both terms were mentioned somehow, specifically highlighting prepaid expenses. Of course, pag naka-financial accounting na kayo, prepaid expenses or the deferred expenses are assets. So, therefore, the counterpart, pag unearned income naman, yan. Unearned income, assets, liabilities. Yan. Okay. Most of you remembered that accrued income is a liability. So please do remember those one. Those important highlights for the basics for income and expenses. And dagdag na rin natin, in addition for that one, because of the accrual basis of accounting. Accrual. So always mention in the conceptual framework side for the accrual basis of accounting. Because of that, kaya nag-arise yung mga said items or accounts we mentioned. Additional definitions for reversing entries or notes for reversing entries. For reversing entries, the last step or side of the accounting cycle a while ago is maybe made on the following for all accruals and prepayments initially recorded using the expense method and unearned income initially recorded using the income method. Yan. This is the end of my first slide of presentation for the basics for accounting. Any questions or queries sa pinaka-basic muna accounting process? I'll open the chat box now. Accounting process. None. Others? I think someone raised her or his hand a while ago. Nevertheless, you can use the chat box. Pabakbo sa last slide. Okay, wala daw. So I'll stop recording so we can divide the recording into 3. Okay, para hindi masyado